Not everyone recognizes that the mussel populations are declining, but shorelines and bare rocks are beginning to tell a different story. In areas that are unprotected, edible mussels are becoming harder and harder to find as the easily accessible ones are removed from the rocks, and mussel harvesting is becoming an activity that is only possible at spring tides when the deeper rocks are exposed and in dangerous conditions as the harvesters have to find them in the wave crash zones and underwater.
Yes, there were a lot more. There are still more now, but the problem is that they are deep in the sea. It is dangerous because the waves are huge. You can be taken away by the wave, you can fall, you can break your waist, you can break a leg.
Traditional harvesting practices, which developed when there was a plentiful supply of mussels, included scraping the rocks clean with spades and large blunt instruments, which took everything off the rocks, both the adult and young mussels, as well as other organisms and seaweed. In scraping the rocks bare, the entire habitat and ecosystem started changing, making it a hostile environment for mussels. In place of the nutrient-rich algae that feeds the ecosystem, a hard coralline algae, which is very poor in nutrients, grows instead. Shingle worms invade the coralline algae, and the rocks become an unstable environment for the baby mussels to grow on. They also have no adult mussels to protect them, and they are unable to form tight clumps of colonies that assist in reproduction. But these harvesting methods have been used for centuries, so what has changed, and why are mussel populations now threatened? Human populations are expanding, creating competition for food and resources, and in rural areas there is a widespread decline of agricultural production. So there's a higher concentration of mussel collectors on the beaches. And in rural households, where there is poverty, illnesses like AIDS and migration of parents to cities, there is often only one provider in a huge household of 10 or more people. And so pressure is put on the marine resources to provide food and an income.
Talk to us about the process that unfolds when you get communities that are traditionally reliant on coastlines to find alternative sources of income.
Many people don't realize that all around South Africa and much of the rest of Africa, there are impoverished coastal communities who have no alternative income but to glean what they can from the coast, from the estuaries, and from the near-shore sea. Many of them have been doing it for generations, and as populations increase, so the marine resources upon which they depend are in decline. In some cases, they're economically extinct. That means that while the animals and the plants might still be present, they're in numbers in which it's hardly worthwhile for people to collect them. Ultimately, total extinction will occur if the trends do not change. Sustainable Seas Trust is developing what we call sustainable education and skills programs for employment. That is, helping the communities themselves to find alternatives that would enable them to get alternative employment, and through this alternative employment reduce the pressure on the marine environment and ultimately allow the marine environment to recover somewhat and then to be harvested sustainably. Getting those communities on board is something which one has to do with care. Normally, Sustainable Seas Trust is introduced by people who have a good association with the communities, and then working with those communities, we set ourselves up into a situation where we trusted. We then ask the communities what they would like, and we help them achieve those goals. Very important to what we are doing is alleviation of poverty, dealing with issues of food security, dealing with issues of social justice and developing human dignity. And in that way, we conserve the environment, because once those people have these alternative jobs, have the alternative employment, understand the processes, they can help us with the restoration of the environment as well as reduce the pressures on them.
Awareness is clearly very important. Talk to us about how you go about not only raising awareness with the communities that are reliant on the coastline, but with the broader public as well.
Awareness is very important, without a question. Many people are aware though, but they don't do very much about it. Education is also extremely important. But once again, an educated person need not necessarily act. So what Sustainable Seas Trust is doing is it's using awareness, it's using education to call for action. And our Sea Pledge campaign is a call for action. What we've done now on 2 occasions is moved all the way around South Africa from town to town, that's coastal town to coastal town, and involved the public in making sea pledges. The first time we did this was in 2011 when we took COP17, that's the great big climate change meeting that was held in Durban. We took COP17 to coastal South Africa, and then we took coastal South Africa to COP17. And while we were in COP17, messages and photographs were and while we were in COP17, messages and photographs were coming in from people all around South Africa and from 30 other countries as well, calling for conservation of our coasts. So this endeavor of involving people, getting them to make a sea pledge, becoming involved, becoming active, worked for COP17, and the resolution that we took to COP17 was adopted by the United Nations, and this was very successful indeed. Very recently, we've conducted the SAMSA Sea Pledge Tour, again going from the west coast, from Saldanha to Sodwana, stopping off at all of the major and smaller towns along the coast. On this occasion, we had high-profile, powerful speakers drawn from overseas and from South Africa who gave messages. We also involved the business chamber, local government, the clubs, societies, schools, universities, making sea pledges and taking action. On this occasion, we are calling for people to get behind a camera, take a photograph, enjoy the countryside, the seaside, become proud of the country, and submit their photograph to a photographic competition, the best of which will go into a book on the splendors of South African seas. As soon as somebody gets behind a camera, has to think about their photograph, has to take the action and make choices, because this is open to the public can choose the best photographs. As soon as they do that, they're thinking about the coast, they're thinking about conservation, they're thinking about the beauty of our country, they're thinking about conservation. We need people to take these little steps, and ultimately these little steps will become one massive, large step in the right direction.
My pledge is to ensure complete sustainability of all beaches.
And I pledge to raise awareness of ocean conservation.
My sea pledge is that I'm going to just only eat sustainable fish that I know where it's from and know that it's sustainably caught.
My pledge is to work continuously with the Sustainable Seas Trust, working to inculcate awareness, public understanding of scientific knowledge.
My pledge is to let everybody know how important it is to look after our planet and look after our oceans and keep it all clean.
I pledge to come back.
how important are your partnerships in realizing the objectives of your program?
One of the very important aspects of these tours around the country was to develop partnerships, because the situation with regard to conservation and maintaining an environment for tourism now is such that everybody needs to play a role. And I'm very pleased to say that we did develop a large number of partners, and those partners are helping us with the photographic competitions and the development of the book, but also taking the messages out on a daily basis and calling for sea pledges. This is really wonderful. On the last tour, the SAMSA Sea Pledge tour, we sometimes had 4 or more NGOs up on the podium talking to the audience, showing that they're working together. This is a really important message. Many people think that NGOs and charities and environmental organizations are in competition with one another. The message we gave is that we are working together. The Sea Pledge calls for every single person to make a pledge that he or she will do one small thing. And if you do one small thing, and I do one small thing, and everybody else does one small thing, we can all move towards a better environment, promote our country, promote tourism, promote conservation. So partnerships are absolutely critical. I think another thing that's particularly important is for people to recognize that time is no longer on our side. We are living now in the most important decade in human history, and probably the most important decade in the next 10,000 years, what Dr. Sylvia Earle calls the sweet spot in time. Because we've done a lot of damage to this earth, to this world, to our seas. It's we who did it, but in doing it, we have shown that we have the power to change the world. We now need to utilize that power in this, the sweet spot in time. We've got the knowledge, we've got the scientific backing, we've got the strength, we've got the information. We can turn things around. What am I talking about? Many of the fish species are down to just a few % of what they were. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's still a couple of % left. We can turn it around so those 2% can regrow. We can rehabilitate our environment. We can change things. Now is the time to act.
Tell us a little bit about your coastal tours and what you're hoping to achieve with them.
Our coastal tours are Sea Pledge tours, in which we travel from the one side of South Africa to the other, stopping at large and small towns, giving lectures, involving the municipalities. Many mayors have made pledges. That's really important because the business chambers have supported us. That's good because the business fraternity is coming on board. The universities, schools, other academic institutions are supporting us. The clubs, whether they be yacht clubs, dive clubs, angling clubs, surf clubs, they're also supporting us, and the general public. So we are developing this, in a way, almost a crusade for people to recognize that now is the time to act. We're helping them select issues that they themselves can work on. Not only have we been able to give many lectures on these tours and involve people in activities on the beaches, on the rocky shores, in cleanups, in the schools and so forth, we've also in fact had very good publicity. We occurred in many newspapers, often front page, in magazines. We had radios following us, and we appeared on television. So the important thing here is that these tours draw attention to the need to care for our wonderful coastline, the need to conserve, the need to sustain, and the need to attract people to South Africa.